Evening. Thank you for joining us on Compass. There is a new case of COVID-19 on PEI tonight, the first in almost 2 weeks. Here's what we know. He is a man in his 50s and had been traveling internationally. He came to PEI on the Confederation Bridge. He has been self-isolating and is at home. There have now been 27 cases of COVID-19 on PEI. This new case did not stop the chief public health officer from laying out the plans on how some of the restrictions will soon be lifted in this province. We got a detailed plan on what the next couple of months will look like. Nicole Williams is with us tonight to walk us through it all. So we're going to start with a close look first at phase 1. That starts this Friday. Outdoor gatherings can now happen of 5 people or less. Some non-urgent healthcare services will start to be rescheduled. And people can take part in non-contact outdoor activities together, like biking or walking. So Nicole, what do we need to know about phase 1?
Louise, the most important thing people need to know is that they need to keep practicing physical distancing, staying 6 feet apart from each other. We're all being asked to continue with hand washing and not touching our faces. This first phase focuses, as you said, on some non-urgent healthcare services like physiotherapy and optometry and outdoor activities where you can still practice physical distancing. Those are things like golf, recreational fishing, and going to a cottage. You'll also be allowed to carpool, again, if you can maintain physical distancing. Also, some outdoor construction and services like landscaping will be allowed. And this phase will be in place for 3 weeks before we move on to the next one.
Okay, so let's look now at phase 2. It starts on May 22nd. People will be able to have indoor gatherings for the first time in a long time. Those should not include more than 5 people, and non-contact indoor activities can resume as well. Some businesses will be allowed to open, and child care centers can reopen too. Nicole, a lot of changes there in phase 2 starting May 22nd.
Yes, and in this phase, up to 10 people can now also gather outdoors. You'll be able to have people in your home, again, if you have space for physical distancing. Don't share any utensils or dishware. And as you said, daycares will be allowed to open. The same goes for some retail stores. But Dr. Morrison says businesses will have to have plans in place to keep people safe. Once we get to closer to phase 2, we will learn more about this. There will be inspections at some businesses to make sure everyone is following public health measures.
And now, Nicole, phase 3, that is starting in June, potentially around June 12th. It will include indoor gatherings of 15 people, outdoor ones of 20 people. It could include reopening public spaces and could also include things like personal services and restaurants. So, Nicole, break down phase 3 for us.
To be clear, the date on this phase and the rest going forward are tentative. It all depends on how things go, if there are no surging cases or any community spread. We know that in this phase, we could see gyms and pools reopen, and restaurants will be allowed to open for dining in, but people will only be allowed to be there with members of the same household. Hotels could also open, but this will be for PEI residents only.
All right, Nicole, thank you as always. That's Nicole Williams reporting live in studio tonight. And we'll have more on all of this with the Premier a little later on Compass. Well, this was a disappointing day for many country music fans in the region. The 2020 Cavendish Beach Music Festival has been canceled. And tonight, tourism operators in Cavendish are taking stock of what it means. Brian Higgins reports.
The curtain has dropped on the Cavendish Beach Music Festival this year, and in recent days, other big events across Canada have shut down too. In a pandemic, big crowds strike the wrong chord.
These events across the country, Brian, are shutting down for the year as a safety precaution. And what we're seeing here this afternoon is a lot of disappointment. I think people were hoping that would be something they could look forward to.
Local businesses will feel the blow. Sandy Lowther's cottages were fully booked that week, 90% of them to concert goers. But she says festival organizers made the right call.
This decision wouldn't come lightly, but what has me most proud is the fact that health and safety is number one, and that's what we always have to stay focused on.
Business owners in Cavendish area were talking today to try to figure out what to do. The mayor says some businesses may scale back, some may not open at all.
This festival has a huge economic impact, but so does a lot of other aspects of tourism and our seasonal economy. A lot of the action happens in this next 3 to 4 months, and unfortunately, planning for that begins now. And there's going to be, there's going to be a lot held back across the province.
Festival organizers say they've already sold thousands of tickets. They say they'll offer refunds and offer fans an option to put that money towards next year's concert. Brian Higgins, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The PEI Bluegrass Festival is also cancelled for this year. This would have been the 35th year for it. The festival draws thousands of people and international performers. It was scheduled to take place the first weekend in July. The spring shellfish season on PEI has been delayed. Commercial fishing for oysters, quahogs, and soft shell clams was supposed to start Friday, but Fisheries and Oceans Canada announced today it will not start until May 18th. The PEI Shellfish Association asked for that delay, and it says if markets don't improve, the season should be delayed further. Some Charlottetown thrift stores are asking Islanders to keep their donations at home for now. The stores are now closed, but people are still dropping things off. Mission Thrift Store says it's put up signs and notices on social media, but bags are still piling up. Items left are being taken or destroyed by the weather. Value Village says the same thing is happening there. Stores are asking Islanders to hold onto their donations until they reopen. Waste drop-off sites are closed as well. Island Waste Management says it hopes to open them in the coming weeks.
Well, that snow certainly over eastern areas. It did arrive a little later than anticipated, but it was sticking over eastern PEI. My best advice for any accumulation in eastern areas, procrastination will be your best friend. Clear only what you have to. Still cool, but some sunshine tomorrow will help get the melt underway, and I do have much milder temperatures and some rain in the forecast to round out the week. The full details are just ahead.
And with more on PEI's plans to begin easing back on public health measures, I'm joined by PEI Premier Dennis King. So, Premier, there is a timeline for many things in this phase-back plan. I'm sure it's going to be ever-evolving. But what about the border and easing restrictions at the bridge and airport?
Well, thanks, Louise, for having me on. I think, as we indicated in the news conference, that part of our process to be able to begin ease back here in PEI requires us to remain very vigilant with our screening at our borders. So that will maintain in place for the foreseeable future at the very least. We need to make sure that we deal with the most pressing threat to PEI, and that is travel-related COVID. So that will remain in place throughout the duration for the next while at least.
So just to be clear, that remains that non-essential travel still not permitted to PEI?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. What about schools? Lots of people asking about this. Why no decision on that yet? Well,
we did announce that the school will not be opening on May 11th, as we had been on a delay until then. Essentially, what we are saying is that education will continue, but it will not be delivered in schools as we've seen before. Education and advanced early childhood, early learning are dealing with a plan based on the CPHO draft here to come up with some possible utilizations and some programming options for our education. But right now, I think, as Dr. Morrison clarified today, our kids won't be going back to school on May 11th.
No mass gatherings, but you are allowing childcare centres to open. I believe that is in phase 2. So what is the thinking behind that? Why no school, no mass gatherings, but then allowing daycares to open?
Well, we're trying to work with our early childhood and our private and public daycares to come up with some strategies of how they can do the very best they can with the physical distancing and to try to operate in small groups. But we do realize that part of the process to get PEI back and to get the economy rolling is we're going to need active childcare opportunities. That is also magnified by the fact that many of us who have children in school who won't be going to school now, there will be a greater need for that. So this is just one of the many challenges that we are trying to deal with as we come to grips with what COVID is and what the rollout and ease back looks like heading forward.
Premier, there was another case announced just today. So did that make you pause when releasing this plan?
Well, I think anytime when I meet with Dr. Morrison in the morning and she says we have a case or we don't, there's always that moment where your heart is in your throat a little bit. So today was no different in that regard. It didn't change the aspects of what we're trying to do here, but it probably validated the need for us to be cautious and meticulous as we go forward. And that is why we have opted to go with a plan that is phased in, that is gradual, that is careful, because if people are under the false impression that we've beaten this or we're through this, I think the fact that we have a positive case today is an indication that much hard work remains, and we have to be vigilant, we have to be careful and cautious.
What would derail this plan, make you hit the reset button?
Well, all of our plans always are driven by the best possible public health information from Dr. Morrison's office and the staff and those people who are looking at this from a health perspective every single day. So it's one of the questions that we ask is what would need to derail this. I think if we see, community spread on a rapid level, that's something that would make us hit the pause button. We know there will be cases going forward, there will be positives, but we need to be constantly measuring that. And that's why we're taking 21 days in between phases to get a really good grip on the epidemiology here and what we need to be mindful of, and making sure that our system can sustain the pressure if some does arise.
And for people out there tonight who have specific questions about specific needs or interests that they have, will those details sort of slowly come out in the coming days?
Yeah, I think we will start to flush out in more detail. I think people will go through the plan and they may not see their business or their activity there, but that doesn't mean they're not being dealt with. So there is a website that they will be directed to. They can talk to the Chief Public Health Officer or her office and to get the answers they need. And we're quite open, Louise, as we have been from the very beginning of this, that we don't think we have this perfect. We think we've probably missed some things, and we're open to people suggesting as to why we missed and what. And this will need to be able to breathe and change and evolve over the next number of weeks and months ahead. So Dr. Morrison is very aware of that, as am I, and we're just really trying to get more of this right than wrong, and we need to review it every day.
Premier Dennis King, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Louise.
Experts say the province is in a good position to loosen some restrictions. Overall, just 1% of PEI's COVID-19 test results have been positive. We reached out to a number of health experts to get their opinions on what the path forward should look like.
PEI has done a fantastic job. I would think that a lot of that has to do with your ability to physically distance. I'm that's just my outside opinion, is the ability to shut the province down and isolate, which is what families are doing, and that's how we know that those public health measures work. And so as you begin as a province to lift those measures, it's important to remember, right, that is your protective mechanism that has likely helped you to get to the very positive place that you're in right now.
In the near term, as you open up the economy, it's wise to restrict, if not cancel, all travel outside the province entirely and just have a self-contained economy while this thing plays out. You're in a very good position for that. So the way we think about this, it's not opening up the floodgates of the economy, it's tweaking a dimmer switch. So you open the switch a little bit, let some people out and see what happens, a little bit more, see what happens. And if things get a little rough, you turn the dimmer switch down again, close some businesses, send people home again. This is, no one's done this before at this scale in the history of civilization. So there's a bit of a learning curve here for all of us. And I think it behooves us to be cautious as we do it. But to reiterate, if any province is in a good position to do it, it's PEI.
There is much more information on the 3 phases coming up on PEI and on the current COVID-19 situation in this province. You can visit our website anytime. That is cbc.ca/PEI. RCMP in Nova Scotia say the man who killed 22 people on April 18th and 19th left the area where the first attacks took place just minutes after police arrived.
Based on the call detail records that we have through our operational communications center, it shows our first unit arriving on the scene at 10:26 in the evening. And since that time, we've obtained a statement from an area resident that believed at the time that they saw a vehicle moving through a field was at around 10:35.
RCMP said they now know the gunman spent the night in an industrial area and left just before 6 a.m. before committing other murders. They say the first woman who was attacked but survived has been a key witness. They also said they have been talking with relatives of the gunman who are retired RCMP officers. But there is no evidence the relatives provided assistance or gave him equipment. The RCMP confirmed that among his guns, the man had an assault-style weapon, and that in addition to killing and shooting people, he also killed animals and pets. Well, here's a live look outside our studio in Charlottetown on this Tuesday evening. Jay Scotland's full forecast on this gray and very windy day is coming up next. Stay with us.
I'm Mitch Cormier. Coming up Wednesday on Island Morning, all the dirt on Island Garden Centers. Getting plenty of phone calls. They're opening for the season, and people just can't wait to get their hands dirty. We'll explain how gardening's become so much more popular this year. Wednesday, 96.1 FM.
Well, Jay's here now inside tonight, and I think we all know why. Jay.
Yeah. I'm not complaining about my assignment to be inside at my office right now, because I'm just looking out the window. The snow is coming down, not really accumulating so much here in Charlottetown, but eastern PEI into parts of Kings County, even eastern areas of Queens County, we are seeing a very sticky accumulation right now. My best advice, procrastinate. Don't shovel more than you absolutely have to, because we do have some milder temperatures in the forecast as we round out the week. Let's take a look at our current temperatures this hour across the island. It was cooler today. I was forecasting temperatures between 2 and 4 degrees, and generally that's what we saw this afternoon. Did get as warm as 5 degrees at Slemon Park in Summerside earlier today. Those northeast winds, though, are the real story here. We've been seeing gusts over 70 kilometers per hour. Right now, coming in off the Gulf, between 30 to just over 40 kilometers per hour for your sustained winds. They have eased a little bit in the last hour, but I am still seeing gusts over 50K being picked up at times as well. And this is the story, aside from the winds, the wet snow that is falling, which is not that uncommon in late April here on PEI, but still not a very welcome sight. We are seeing some wet snow accumulating for eastern PEI, more in the way of just lighter flurries for more central and western areas. And that will continue for the next couple of hours. The good news is that this will taper off later this evening. We will watch for the storm system to track to our east. And we've had this ridge of high pressure kind of meandering or almost wobbling up to our north over Labrador. That will continue to dig into the south, and we will watch for cloudy conditions overnight to maybe a mostly cloudy start to the day tomorrow, but then that clearing trend as the ridge of high pressure settles in. And by late afternoon, more sun than cloud. Temperatures will still be cool and much of the day breezy, but we will be looking at least some sunshine returning and no snow in the forecast for your Wednesday. Thursday, we do see a bit more cloud than clear sky. Temperatures, though, will be milder, actually back up to seasonal, which would be between 9 and 10 degrees for a daytime high. So let's take a look at the overnight conditions over western PEI tonight. Temperatures between 0 and +1. Some low-lying areas may be as cold as -1 tonight. Clearing trend gradually through the overnight hours tonight. Brisk northeast winds 20 to 40K to start the day tomorrow, easing a little bit for the afternoon with a mix of sun and cloud. And by late afternoon, more sun than cloud. Temperatures, though, 2-4 degrees over western areas, maybe as warm as 5 or 6 as we get up to O'Leary. It's quite a range in temperatures tomorrow, and the cooler end of that range will be downwind of the water with those winds coming in off the Gulf along the North Shore. Temperatures again in and around the freezing mark with cloudy conditions tonight. The wet snow will taper off late this evening, and then we'll see a mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures between 3 and 6 degrees over eastern PEI tomorrow afternoon, and again the cooler end of that range up towards the North Shore with those cold winds coming in off the water. But that sunshine should help to melt any accumulation that you did see in eastern PEI. And if that doesn't get rid of it, 9-10 degrees maybe on Thursday, up into the low teens on Friday, that will help get rid of that snow. And we do have some rain in the forecast as well. Louise?
All right, thanks, Jay. And there was a pretty rare find over the weekend here on PEI, and it's weather-related. Do tell.
Yes, we did see a U.S. National Weather Service, NOAA, one of their weather balloons actually tracked out of Maine, likely out of Caribou, Maine, and made its way to Ebenezer, PEI, where Lloyd McLeod, who is a farmer, was out doing his, starting to cut into his field, doing a little bit of plowing, getting ready for his soybean season, and he thought it was a leaf bag blowing in that field for a couple of weeks. When he got up close, he realized it was actually part of a weather balloon, and I actually have it here. He gave it to me, and NOAA, the National U.S. Atmospheric Administration, has allowed me to keep it. So this is the weather device that landed in his field, and this is actually the parachute that allowed it to fall safely, so no one got plunked in the head. So very, very cool. Full story, by the way, is up at cbc.ca/PEI.
That is really cool, and you're going to be talking more about this in a special weekly segment that you're actually starting tomorrow on Facebook.
Yes, right from here, right from my new basement weather center, my office, I'll be doing what's called Homes Cool, and that is primarily aged grade 4 to grade 6, but if they're a bit younger, a bit older, I'm sure your kids won't mind. Just head to the CBC Prince Edward Island Facebook page tomorrow, 11 a.m., and we'll have a weather lesson starting with the 4 seasons and learning about radiosondes and some of these cool weather instruments we use as meteorologists. That kicks off tomorrow.
Looking forward to that. Thanks, Jay. And here's our weather photo of the day. What a beautiful photo of the day. Janelle McLeod sent this in. Sunset over Murray River this past weekend. Beautiful perspective there, gorgeous picture. We'd love to put your photos on Compass. You can always either email them to us or tag us on social media. We're back after this.
So you're gonna come in and you're gonna come from the back and just like that.
How is this for social distancing? And in the most Canadian of ways, a Calgary comedian decided to give his dad a haircut, which we all need during the days of COVID, but we also need to stay apart. So a set of clippers taped onto a hockey stick apparently did the trick. And it ended well. That is a good news story. Thank you for joining us tonight on Compass. You can always go online for more news from our province 24 hours a day. Vashi Capellas is up next with Power and Politics, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night, PEI.